Welcome to Alouettes Flightdeck, podcast dedicated to Montreal Alouettes football. I am Tim Capper. You can find me on Twitter at Repact. That's REPPACT.
And I'm Cliffy D. You can find me on Twitter as well, but at Cliffy D. And this episode of the Alouettes Flightdeck is presented by our good friends over at SportBuff, where right now at checkout, if you use the promo code ALSFlightDeck10, you will save 10% off your entire order. So head over to sportbuffshop.com, check out the new CFL merch that's all over the website, and make sure you support local.
And if you're looking to listen to our entire archive of the Alouettes Flightdeck, you can do so by heading over to our website, which is at www.alouettesflightdeck.ca. Check us out on Twitter at AlouettesFLDeck. Facebook, just look for Alouettes Flightdeck Pod. Instagram, which will be becoming a little bit more active with camp coming up. Search for Alouettes Flightdeck. YouTube, youtube.com/Alouettes Flightdeck. Also, stay tuned for some new video and stuff like that coming from training camp. And lastly, check out our store at teespring.com/stores/Al's Flightdeck, where I can tell you, Cliff, I have seen the mock-up of the next addition to the "If You Know, You Know" line. It's pretty sweet. It's pretty sweet, well, and it should be available. It should be available before the regular season starts. So,
well, you certainly know because I don't. So,
I tell you right now, but it's everybody else would find out at the same time. Yeah.
Well, all the more reason for people to head on over to the site. And hey, any chance you get to sponsor and help us out, folks, we definitely appreciate it. And there's some absolutely killer merch out there. So by all means, buy it up. Show the love. We definitely appreciate each and every one of you that do.
Yeah. Well, Cliff, as we tape today, it is technically the beginning of training camp. Rookie camp started today. Little bits have come out here and there with other CFL teams. We're waiting to hear all the glorious things from the guys over at the Alouettes website. Find out more about our rookies in camp this week. But also, you know what that means, Cliff? This coming Sunday, training camp 2023 kicks off in Trois-Rivières on the road to the Grey Cup, dude.
Well, let's just... you'll forgive me if I'm a little subdued, because remember last year we were saying the same thing. We were totally expecting to get ready for training camp, and it's going to be great and all that jazz. And then there was this little labor dispute that kind of put a little kibosh in those plans, which was a bit unfortunate. But so far, none of that is expected to happen, because even though the two sides have agreed and are supposedly still working under a collective bargaining agreement that no one has seen or it's been officially signed.
I know. It's just
you'll forgive me though if I'm just a little not concerned at all, because I truly believe that when we go up on Sunday there will be training camp happening. But still, I mean, with all the craziness that's happened in this offseason, Tim, can you blame me for just being a little bit cynical, underwhelmed? I don't know. Pick your adjective here.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's basically, it's not a complete renew of the team itself. I think it's just a matter of fact of, I'm sure for a lot of us, it was a pretty bitter off season when it came to free agency as far as players that we have lost. And it's just a matter of what's going to happen.
Lost?
Huh?
Maybe how they were lost?
Well, yeah, how they were lost. And now it's just a matter of who is now going to step up and become, not necessarily, the face of the team, whether we know, whether it be William Stanback, whether it be another player, who's going to become the vet? Who's going to become the face of this Montreal Alouettes team? Is it going to be new quarterback Cody Fajardo? I mean, yeah, sure. I mean, usually you would think you would want that to be when it came to your quarterback. Is it going to be a veteran wide receiver Greg Ellingson? Maybe. It's camp's going to be different this year. Camp for sure is going to be different this year. And, just the first day, I don't know what we're going to be able to see day one. I'm sure a lot of fans may not be able to see anything until the following week or weekend, for a Victoria Day weekend, but still, it's still eating at me, dude. I'm just gonna say it and I'll drop it. Is that and hopefully we'll get some information and we'll bring it to you on why this occurred this way. Not taking advantage of a full weekend, a full long weekend of practice. It just boggles my mind that that it's basically 2 weekends in a row. They lose one weekend because of the ball game, the baseball game where they're gonna show up. I mean, it's good community PR, obviously, but we want to be able to see this team play, and it's for those who can't be there 24/7 during the first week. It's that I think that's also thrown another wrench into it, if I dare say.
No, and this is a valid point. I mean, it definitely feels like a very much a lost opportunity even before it's happened. And there's a little part of me that's hoping that they kind of see the error of their ways and say, listen, okay, if we have to take a day off, then let's find a day that's not during this long weekend. Because if you've got people that are going to be coming up to Trois-Rivières for the long weekend in hopes of seeing the Alouettes training camp, I mean, yeah, they're going to be very disappointed as it stands right now. However, if the Alouettes decide, okay, we got to showcase for the people that are going to be coming up here. I mean, unless they're truly expecting everybody in Trois-Rivières to drop what they're doing, whether it's going to work, going to school, or what have you, and fill the stands to watch a bunch of drills and practice sessions. I mean, I personally don't see that happening. So I sincerely hope, like you, that the Alouettes find some way to maximize their time and see the value in trying to attract everybody, because that was the whole thing, as we've said before, about make the pomp and circumstance of being able to return to Trois-Rivières, and then you get an opportunity like a long weekend. Like pretty much everybody's going to have the day off, the Victoria Day or Dollar Day or whatever you call the May long weekend day off. People are going to have that off. And yes, there are going to be training camp sessions there, but that's, as it stands right now, that would be the only actual quote unquote training camp session, so to speak. And it's like, okay, you go up Saturday, you see the scrimmage game. Sunday, I don't know, do touristy stuff.
Yeah, I guess.
And then Monday you go back to camp and watch that session, and then okay, that's it. So I mean, you've seen some football action, but I mean, to me, it just feels like you're not getting the whole thing, like it's almost feels like a, bits and pieces of football kind of thrown in there. So I don't know. I really don't know what to say about that. I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, like I said, a lot can change between now and next weekend. And part of me is thinking, well, let's at least get to this coming Sunday. And to me, Tim, that's what I'm hoping for, is just once we get there and we hear the smack of the pads, we hear, the whistles blowing, we hear, all the sights and sounds that we've been missing for the past, was it been 7-8 months since we've had CFL football? Once we get that again, all will feel right with the world. That's what I'm sincerely hoping for. But I mean, like, again, when you've got some of this other stuff coupled with this wacky ass off season that we've had, I mean, yeah, it's been quite the long, strange trip, and I just really truly don't know what to make of it.
It's nice to be able to see. I mean, it looks like obviously this year ownership is obviously going to be more stable. I mean, we've had a change of president. There's been some other changes within the organization itself. So it's I guess it's not only a new start, so to speak, for the team, but it's also a new start for the organization. So I'm curious to see what happens. It'd be nice if Pierre Karl showed up, but I don't want it to overshadow the team. It's always nice when your owner shows up. Yes, that's a given. No matter what sport you're in, to show up in the community, whether it's a photo op or not. But this, to me, training camp is about the team itself. So
right. I mean, people don't buy season tickets for who the owner is or who the president is or who the general manager is. It's for the players, and that's what people are there to see. Like, that's what you're going to be making that pilgrimage for, is to see the players in action, like the new ones, the players that you know and love. That's what you're going to training camp for. So yes, I do actually fully expect Pierre Karl Pelado to make an appearance, as well as the rest of the organization as well, because it's important to get out there in the public and meet the people and just remind everybody that, hey, we're here, we're back for another exciting season, hopefully, and just getting the word out. I think that's what's going to be key more than anything else.
No, I totally agree. I mean, and now it's just really centering on this is one of the years, obviously as it is in camp, where you are going to have to take that roster sheet that hopefully the team will be giving out again this year, which is a genius idea last year, which I loved, and keeping track of these guys who we don't know, because we have just looking at wide receivers alone, we got a ton of names that we have no clue who these guys are. But one positive to that before we actually move on to what we're looking for and maybe who we want to watch at camp. It's also, I mentioned it on social media a couple weeks ago when I think we mentioned it maybe on the podcast too, but wide receiver Hergy Mayala back with the Alouettes.
Yes, indeed. Friend of the show, Hergy Mayala. We had Hergy on last year to celebrate him being a member of the Alouettes, and he had been released in order to go pursue an opportunity at the USFL, and that unfortunately didn't pan out for Hergy. So it almost felt like it was just a matter of when, not if, he would return to the Alouettes. And sure enough, he put pen to paper, and folks, you will be seeing Hergy in camp this year. So that's definitely fantastic news. I know that guys like Keon Julian Grant and Tyson Philpott are going to be excited to see their pal Hergy back in the lineup again. And once again, it just helps strengthen that belief that, the national receiver position is not only alive and well, but has potential to thrive like never before. So definitely a good shot in the arm, a good boost to the training camp core. So I'm definitely excited to see Hergy back doing his thing.
Yeah, for sure. I'm trying to find it real quick. Did they say how many years did he sign for with the Alouettes, or was it just a 1 year deal?
I think it's a year and an option.
Okay.
So
hey, it's nice to have him back, because it's funny to say to have stability of veterans on the wide receiver core. Mm-hmm. After all these years, with Geno being the guy, again, as I mentioned at the start, we need somebody to step up and become the go-to guy. And we have some great candidates easily. I mean, if Tyson Philpott, newly crowned number 6, by the way, Tyson Philpott, can do what he did last year, he easily could become the face of this Alouette squad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the opportunity is there, right for the taking for him to step up. And as again, Keon Julian Grant, we saw him really truly come into form last year, and fully expect him to not only maintain that, but even take that next step further up. So, I mean, this could be the year where these two young men, both Canadian receivers, could become household names in the Canadian Football League. And if that's the case, folks, be very excited. That means that whether it's Cody Fajardo, Caleb Evans, or Davis Alexander throwing the rock, if those guys are catching it, better believe that eventually points will be put on the board, and it's going to be setting a lot of people, getting a lot of tongues wagging, and a lot of people being out of their seat and very excited to see this Alouettes team in action. Yeah,
by the way, it's hard to, with Geno, who had so much, so much time with the Alouettes, who right now is the longest serving Alouettes wide receiver? I was thinking about this the other day. Who the hell is it? I mean, Greg Ellingson aside, I mean, he is a CFL pedigree, obviously. But Al's wide receiver? Just looking at the roster?
Honestly, it would have to be, probably Regis Sibasu.
Yeah?
I think, yeah.
Maybe KGG?
Yeah, actually, you know what? I think KGG would be, because he was drafted in 2019. So I guess I think
and
KGG.
Or if Reggie, because we know Reggie White will not be starting this season on the active roster, and could be Reggie White Jr. considering how we got him.
No,
you're right. No, because he was a year post COVID.
Right.
So yeah, it would be KJG. So that's
pretty wild.
I know. Just looking at it. What are your thoughts? You just mentioned it before, and we just happened to mention it too. I mean, this is probably one of the years where the Alouettes have had the fewest starting quarterbacks on their roster in camp. Davis Alexander, Caleb Evans, Cody Fajardo, and Mike Glass III. Thoughts? I mean, are those our 4 quarterbacks? 3 starters and that will be active and the 1 on the practice roster. Is that fair to say that's what it's going to be?
If you were to go strictly by the numbers, then yes.
Yeah.
And there's always possibilities of, when cuts come out, possibly adding another quarterback there. Maybe there's a potential negless quarterback that the Alouettes are just waiting for the right opportunity for. Mm-hmm. I mean, for all intents and purposes, barring something catastrophic, Cody Fajardo will be the starter for the Alouettes. I think that's pretty fair. I mean, given the attention that he's been given and the opportunities that's been given to him as well, I think. Again, he would have to fall flat at something fierce for him to not be the starter for this team. Mm-hmm. Again, Caleb Evans, Davis Alexander, Mike Glass, those are three young quarterbacks, three guys that definitely have potential.
Yeah, we saw what Caleb did last year in Ottawa. He is a threat to run, obviously, and he has a good arm. And we saw what Davis did in the game versus Toronto. So we have some good arms. It's just a matter of which order will those two be in.
Mm-hmm. And that's the exciting thing about camp is that's where you find out, who's got what it takes, who is going to step up and make themselves noticed. Because even last year, when you think about the fact that we had Vernon Adams, Trevor Harris, Dominique Davis, and Davis Alexander, Alexander was just kind of like the forgotten name, but ended up having a fantastic preseason.
Yeah, and what he did in the scrimmage. Obviously, that's what we're looking forward to. We won't be able to see much of them up to the lead up of the scrimmage in 2 weeks, but still, yeah, the guys can make a name for themselves in that scrimmage for sure.
And a lot of these guys, that's truly is where you find these guys. Yes, it's tough to lose a lot of the veteran players that we did, but let's not forget, a lot of these names, including a Davis Alexander, at one point they were you're looking at the lineup and who the hell is this guy? And then all of a sudden you see them play and you're like, oh, okay, we got something here. And that's how these guys develop and become superstars. So I'm not saying that there's immediate pressure on a Davis Alexander, for example, to have an outstanding camp, but we know what we saw. We know what we saw last year. We know what the potential is for him. We know what his ceiling is, and now it's up to him to be able to try to match that, if not exceed it, and prove that, hey, you know what? I do belong on this team. I do belong as more than just a camp arm or a practice roster guy. I should be in the lineup. And by having an outstanding camp and pushing guys like Fajardo and Evans, who do have true CFL experience, to be better as well. I mean, it's going to make for a great competition. And again, just because everybody and their mother thinks that Cody Fajardo is going to be the man here in Montreal, he could very well be. But until we actually see these guys get on the field and start doing their thing, we won't know that. So that's what camp has always been about to me, is seeing who is ready to step up and become a leader. Not just the established guys, but the young guys. I want to see who is ready to take that next step and prove that they belong in the Canadian Football League.
Yeah, for sure. Now, obviously, the running back court situation can be very interesting. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Stanback's on his last year of his contract, right?
That's right.
Yep. So he's going to want to make a name for himself, if he decides to stay with the Alouettes, which obviously we hope that he does, and avoids free agency, or if he goes somewhere else. But look at the guys behind him. Fletcher made a hell of a name for himself last year when we needed to have somebody. Jeshua Antwi, I think, finally made a name for himself. Because obviously, people remember what happened in 2020. A couple of things occurred that I think may have left a little bit sour.
You mean 2021?
Sorry, 2021. Yes, 2021 may have left a bad taste in their mouth when it came to. But he stepped up also. So and then we got Jerry Howard Jr. We got AJ Rose who are going to be there too. So it's running back. I think, as far as we know, it's Stanback's team, but it's great to have a 1-2-3 punch as we actually do, because as we've seen in years past, having a 1-2 combo can make all the difference. All the difference. And it changes things up. It doesn't make things stagnant. They don't know who's going to come in and do what. Because all these running backs, at least the three, Alouettes ones from last year, we know that they can catch the ball out of the backfield. And we know William Stanback worked on that quite a bit.
Oh, absolutely. And yeah, we saw that three-headed monster in action last year, and it was so exciting to see. And now William Stanback being back healthy and focused, ready to go. As you said, he's in a contract year, so he's going to want to prove that he's going to want to get paid come next offseason. And this is his opportunity to say, hey, I'm here. I'm the guy, and this is my yard. This is my chance to show that I belong, and that I should be one of the premier running backs in this. I should be in the discussion as far as one of the premier running backs in this league. And Fletcher and Antwi are no slouches either. When Stanback went down to injury in week 1, those two stepped in and did a tremendous job as far as I was concerned. They ran the rock extremely well. They made plays happen. They played outstanding football. Knowing that all three of those guys are going to be in camp and be part of this lineup to me is a very, very exciting thing. I sincerely hope Jason Moss, who has shied away from the run in his previous coaching gigs, I hope he realizes the absolute studs that he has at running back and truly does find a way to get them into the lineup, get them all working, all firing on all cylinders. And if anything, it's just going to help guys like Cody Fajardo and Caleb Evans take some of that pressure off, that they're not going to have to throw on every down, that they can just turn around and give the ball to one of these three guys, and great things are going to happen. So I have to believe that's going to be a huge sense of relief for the quarterback to be able to say, I've got three great running backs behind me or beside me, and just open things up, open up the playbook and really see what these guys can do. So it's going to be one of the many, many competitions that I'll be taking a look at, and definitely looking forward to seeing who is going to step up and stand out for this team.
Speaking of stepping up and standing out, somebody that we were watching quite a bit last year when he was doing such a great job before he got hurt. We know that Tyrell Richards is going to be back. He seems to be healthy. It'll be interesting to see how he does with not necessarily live action, but practice action, how he's improved, what he's improved on. He was a part of the Alouettes draft special, and I know he's ready. He seems to be ready and raring to go.
I think for me, like when it comes to it's interesting you bring up Tyrell Richards as far as him making a comeback, but you took a look at the entire linebacking core for the Alouettes. First of all, Tyrese Beverett's back, and oh my God, I am very excited about that because we saw what he did last year, and that dude plays like his hair is on fire. Mm-hmm. Brian Harlemana is going to be back as well, also a national receiver, or national linebacker, I should say. Whoops. But those are some heavy-hitting guys, and also added in free agency Avery Williams from Ottawa. Yeah. This linebacking core is going to be extremely exciting. Unfortunately, Darius Peckett has decided to take his talents to the Toronto Argonauts, but I think that's just going to create that opportunity for Tyrell Richards to show why he was the first overall pick last year. He was slowed down by injuries, but I think, as you said, he worked his ass off. He's in great shape. He looks raring to go. I'm really excited to see what he can do because don't forget that home preseason game, he played pretty outstanding. He had this one hellacious hit on an Ottawa player that it just got everybody out of their seats. So if he brings that same energy, that same intensity to training camp, and to actually get to see that in game action, whew, boy, oh boy. I think this linebacking core is going to be sneaky good. Like, again, everybody knows what Tyrese Beverett can do. Wait until you see what Tyrell Richards can do, what Brian Harlemana can do. As I said, Avery Williams was a very solid contributor for many years with the Red Blacks. My God, I think this linebacking core is just one of don't sleep on this linebacking core for the Alouettes. You talk about this defense, and everybody talks about the defensive line, how important it is, how the secondary has to just be absolutely dominant. But I think for my money, this linebacking core is one that definitely we're going to have to keep an eye on when training camp starts.
Oh yeah, for sure. When we look at the other, the O-line kickers, and again, we got. It's not a controversy yet. It's not a. But we actually have two kickers in camp. Our global guys in camp and up against David Cote, and it's always. I meant punter versus kick. I'm just going by how they're listed on the roster. But yes, true. But you're right. It's always good to have competition, and obviously that's what the Alouettes thought by bringing in an extra kicker. So it's why not? You know what I mean?
Well, shoot. I mean, the only reason. Well, we could have brought in more, but I mean, Winnipeg signed a whole bunch of kickers.
Jeez, don't even start me on that one.
And then Sergio Castillo. Okay, well, guess what? There's now 6 free agents that just became available. I can't believe it. Wow. I know with Winnipeg, they were so concerned about the kicking game. Well, not so concerned not to ensure that Sergio Castillo never left, but boy, did they ever right or wrong when it came to that, because, oh boy, Winnipeg, by and large, you live by the kicker and you die by the kicker. But but the fact that what made me laugh is they signed 6 kickers, including Mark Leggio. And then just a couple of days ago, Edmonton who had signed Castillo in free agency, let him go. I guess they were basically telling him, okay, you need to take a pay cut. And he's like, no, no, I'm not doing that. See ya. And then released like an hour or two later, signs with Winnipeg. And now the other kickers have to be like, well, it's been fun. I guess, I don't really know why we're even bothering here. So,
yeah. How many of them left? Because I remember the Bombers signing that stud from the National Arena League and stuff like that. I mean, is it really going to be any? I mean, I know we're talking about another team, but as I said, competition breeds.
Well, see, that's just it. I mean, it's always good to have the competition, and I guess that's why you don't want someone like a David Cote to rest on his laurels. You want to make your kicker feel like he's not that his job's in peril, but as they say, iron sharpens iron. It doesn't hurt to have another leg or two in camp just to see what else is out there. So, to me, that would be a good reason why. But I mean, I think. For what David Cote has done for this team, I mean, he's been clutch. Mm-hmm. More hits and misses. Hasn't been perfect, but I mean, no kicker truly ever is perfect. But no, I mean, for my money, David Cote has.
I'll say, ask Damon Duval.
There you go. But for my money, though, what David Cote has brought to this team has been nothing short of outstanding, and I think his job is safe, to tell you the honest truth. But you know what? It doesn't hurt to have that extra little oomph, that extra little. Like just someone just right beside you, just kind of nudging you just a little bit, just to be a little bit better, just 1% better every day. And I think that's really what it came down to. I mean, Joseph Zima, we know what he can do as a punter, does fantastic work as well. So, I mean, like I'm for the first time in a good long while, I'm very optimistic and pleased about where this kicking game is with the Alouettes. So I would say don't ruin a good thing, but you know what, as they say, competition is always a good thing. It makes us better. So listen, I hope Jose Maltos comes in, lights a fire under David Cote and makes him work just a little bit harder and be just a little bit better. And hey, it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be it's going to be good for everybody involved.
Actually, and I think I miscategorized him, because as of today's transactions from the CFL, actually our global pick was it Rise Burns, the punter from Louisiana Lafayette. He's also been added to the active roster. We had a whole slew of dudes. The guy that the guy that followed us on Twitter, Shedler Furvius, he followed. He was activated officially today. So there are a whole slew of guys that were activated for rookie camp.
Makes sense. I mean, you kind of doesn't make sense to have a rookie camp if you don't have your rookies. So.
No, I know.
and also too, that's also too where the quarterbacks are going to be there, because someone's got to throw to all these rookies and someone's got to make these rookies work. So yeah, listen, I'm excited to see which rookies show up, which of the few players that were drafted will actually be in camp. I mean, I'm excited to see what is potentially out there for this team. I mean, there's been a lot of wholesale changes, and whether we agree with them or not, we could debate that forever. But I'm choosing to look forward. I'm choosing to see the potential in something new and something interesting. And that's one of the many, many things we'll be taking a look at, is just these new additions, especially at the receiving core. Let's not forget, at one point, Eugene Lewis was a nobody on this team.
Oh, I know.
And then became the superstar that he is. So you can take a look at the roster and you're like, who's it going to be? Who's going to be the next Geno Lewis? Do we have the next Geno Lewis in this lineup of this list of names here? I want to say yes. I want to say that someone is going to step up and be given that opportunity, because it's right there for the taking. All you have to do is reach out and grab it. So who's going to do it? Who's going to reach out and be that next potential superstar for this team?
Mm-hmm. And obviously, this could be the last word before we actually get to with camp starting. Anybody else that we haven't mentioned from any of the positions, Cliff, that stands out to you?
Well, another name that I'm looking forward to seeing again is Brock Gowanlock. We've talked a lot over the past year and a half about how this defensive line is so crucial for Montreal. We didn't get to see a whole lot of Brock last year. Another guy that had an absolutely outstanding camp, amazing preseason. Unfortunately, got hit with the injury bug, and we didn't get to see a whole lot. We didn't get to see that potential that we saw in camp, unfortunately. So I got a feeling that he'll be coming in too, ready to go, and just a little bit pissed off about the missed opportunity he had. Looking forward as well to seeing guys like Jamal Davis and Nick Usher. They had fantastic years last year for the Alouettes, and that they've got some young guys that are going to be a part, and they're kind of nipping at the heels just a little bit. So I think those are the two guys, along with Armando Sewell, that are going to anchor this defensive line and just be dominant again. And I couldn't be more excited to see those guys in action. I truly think, if nothing else, they know they're established. They know they're going to be here for a while, and it's just a simple matter of just going out there and doing damage. And I am here for it. I am 100% here for that.
Yep. So this Sunday, 2:30 p.m. at Stade Diablos over in Trois-Rivières, day one of Alouettes Training Camp. Hopefully you'll be there. If you do happen to see Cliff or myself in the stands, come by and say hi.
We'll be easy to spot. We'll be the guys wearing flight deck stuff.
There we go. That's easy. Yep, that'll be easy enough. So, there are a few other things that I wanted to talk about, because we're talking about training camp. Obviously, new things, new people to learn, see, new faces. I know you wanted to talk specifically about, which happens every year. Sometimes it's more interesting than others, but we actually have new or revised rules that the CFL announced, didn't they?
Yeah, actually, it's kind of not stuff that would jump out for a lot of people, but just, again, they were basically described as tweaks to existing rules. And whether or not they'll truly improve the game or truly improve the game flow or not, it's like anything else. Like, the first couple of weeks are going to be a bit of a gong show, because you start thinking you could do something, and then all of a sudden, no, you cannot do that. So, yeah, it's kind of fun. And also why I joke that, CFL actually stands for Canadian Flag League, because sure enough, the rest will be throwing the laundry as a result. Like, didn't you learn this in camp? Learn what in camp? Like, oh, yeah, okay. All right, so I'm not going to bore everybody with the details, but we'll sum it up. One rule that's kind of interesting. It's not necessarily a rule it's a rule, but it's not a penalty related thing per se. But
right.
Teams now can you're not allowed to have a player wearing both number 0 and number 00. You can wear one or the other, but not both. So for Brian Herlemana, for example, who wears number 0 for the Alouettes, he's fine. But now the Alouettes can't have a 00 on the team, which is funny, because technically it is a different number, but it's not, at least not according to the system that the league uses to track the stats and the scouting.
Yeah.
So, okay, I guess it's one of those glitch in the matrix kind of deals. I mean, to me, I don't see what the problem is. Like 0, 00, it is two different numbers technically, but anyways. So, yeah. So, as I said, Brian's safe, and if someone wanted to wear 00, well, you're just gonna have to go play elsewhere.
Yeah. Well, one of the ones that I saw that I thought was interesting, and it's something, if you've been an NFL fan, this one has been around for eons. What's your thought about them giving the quote unquote option of a safety if somebody is held within the end zone?
You know what? I think that's going to clarify a lot of things, or at least it won't feel so different for a lot of these American players that are coming to the CFL for the first time, because that's what they were weaned on. Like, that's what they knew in college, and if they played in the NFL, this was a normal thing. So I think for them that they won't skip a beat as far as this goes. So I think it's great. I think it's going to help with some of the strategy, even with depending on what the score is, depending on how much time is left on the clock, whether or not they opt for the safety or not. I mean, it could be a very interesting little wrinkle as far as that goes, because now depending on if you're down by a certain score, or depending on any number of things, I mean that could really make or break the difference for a game. So I'm curious. I'll be curious to see that in action, because again, I'm not used to seeing it in the CFL. So NFL, yeah, I'm absolutely used to seeing it, but in the CFL, this will be a fun little wrinkle, as I said. Mm-hmm. Another one, which I think is going to be all about ensuring the safety of everybody, is being able to call an objectionable conduct penalty if you make avoidable contact with an official. You will now receive a 10-yard objectionable conduct penalty. And the command center is going to make sure that to see if it truly was unavoidable or not. And sometimes in the heat of the action, you don't always know immediately whether the referee was just in the way, or if something happened. Like, could the referee being run into have been avoided or not? And now it's going to be on the players to ensure that they truly see all of the field, including where the referees are. Now, referees, for the most part, should know to get the heck out of the way, especially if the play's happening. But sometimes it doesn't always work out that way. So I'm I'm interested to see just how this is. And of course, like I said, leaving fate up into the command center is always a dicey proposition, as we all know. But
again, I'm going to say it again, and I'm sure it's, where's the transparency? I'm sorry. I don't want to hear excuses. If they're able to do it in the XFL and they're able to do it in the USFL, they can do it in the CFL. Come on.
Well, and that's something that TSN is going to eventually one day have to, you may have to drag them into it kicking and screaming, but that is something that they're going to have to address one of these days, is the, just how the command center works and how transparent they should be with everybody. Quite frankly, as you said, if other leagues can open things up and show that transparency, show how they arrive at the decisions that they do, then the CFL should be able to do likewise. And my hope is that eventually they do. Because there's a lot of times where some of these things are just so egregious, and even the idea of like head coaches having to burn a timeout, or a challenge, I should say, to call something that the referee should have seen clear as day. And honestly, we just want an explanation more than anything else. And there's been so many times where the video is clear as day as to what the penalty is or isn't, and yet the call just comes from the command center and it's completely different altogether. Just make it make sense more than anything else. If you're going to call a penalty, good, bad, or other, and whether it affects your team or not, it just has to be consistent. It has to be as objective and clear and consistent as possible. Mm-hmm. That's all anyone who watches Canadian Football League can ask from the referees and from the command center, is just consistency. Consistency is so key, especially if you're trying to legitimize things. You're going to be showing the game off to a potentially new audience with this contract at CBS Sports Network down in the States. It's got to make sense for them too. And simply put, if TSN has any sort of gumption, if they really truly want to be seen as that innovative leader that they claim to be or want to be, this would be a huge step forward by sort of pulling back the curtain and just letting everybody else see it. And hey, the precedent's been set as far as I'm concerned. Other leagues have done it. The CFL shouldn't be any different as far as I'm concerned.
No, I agree. I'm sure I can make a highlight reel of me just complaining all the time about this thing, because I know we know it can be done. And I'm kind of disagreeing with you on one thing, though. I don't think this is on TSN. This is on the CFL, because the command center is in Toronto. This is the CFL. These are CFL. These are CFL employees who are manning the command center. You know what I mean? It's just make it, again, transparency. That's all we want. Transparency.
No, it's not that hard. One interesting rule that I found, or tweak to the rule I found, was now teams will scrimmage at the 30-yard line if a kicked ball, as in a field goal attempt, hits the goalpost, the doink, if you will, or if a team records an interception or fumble recovery in their own end zone, almost like a touchback. So now instead of scrimmaging from the 25-yard line, it'll now be the 30-yard line. So that, to me, is going to be just yet another interesting. Again, how many doinks did we see last year, Tim?
Too many.
Too many. And it's funny. You live by the doink, you die by the doink. I mean, oh my God. My heart goes out to David Cote. There's at least 2 or 3 games that were clutch games for the Alouettes, and you hear that thud, the doink, whatever you want to call it. It's oh God, it's like a knife in the heart.
What about
so now with this new rule in place, like I said, just a slight alteration, but it could be a really interesting thing as well.
I'm trying to understand the change for the ball, the rouge rule that they've modified. The requirement for the ball to be touched prior to ruling a rouge on a kickoff has been removed. I thought it would be. To me, it wasn't it usually just clear and cut?
Well, clearly not. One thing I will say, though, is now we're definitely going to be encouraging Joseph Zima to kick the crap out of the ball, because now it just has to sail out of the end zone again, and whoop, single, rouge.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that's going to be one of those rules. Again, as far as your special teams coordinator goes, like Byron Archambault, I think he's got to do whatever it takes to get Zima's leg nice and plump, nice and thick, and nice and ready to kick. I'm telling you, sometimes maybe that's the only way you're going to rack up points, is just kick the ball out of the end zone, for crying out loud.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to think. You know, we look at the team. Okay, we look at these new rule changes, and again, we seem to have a theme here this week. I think one of the biggest changes going forward for 2023, Cliff, besides the players, obviously, is the new head coach. Mm-hmm. And that's another thing that we have to get used to. I mean, yes, if you've been able to follow Jason Moss, you know what he's done. But it's just a matter of how is he going to bring what he does and make it work for Montreal, so we can get those wins, so we can score, be very productive when we have the ball. It's with all the turmoil that's happened in years past when it comes to head coaching. Again, it's we don't need a scorecard to know who our head coach is. It'd just be interesting to see how he takes control of the team. Mm-hmm. And that will start this week, obviously, in camp.
Yeah, and I think he realizes he's been gifted a tremendous opportunity. He was head coach in Edmonton a few years ago, and I think it's fair to say that it didn't quite work out the way he hoped it would. Then last year, he was the offensive coordinator for the Saskatchewan Roughriders with Cody Fajardo as his quarterback. So there's that interesting bit of familiarity for him this year, as now Fajardo is with the Alouettes. It was evident last year that a lot of the play calling was suspect, and maybe it didn't quite play to the strengths of what he had as far as offensive talent goes. Was it simply a matter of the O-line being porous as heck in Saskatchewan? Was it a matter of Cody Fajardo not living up to what was expected out of him? Did he simply not have the weapons? I have a hard time believing that, because Saskatchewan definitely did have some very talented players at the receiving core, two very talented running backs that, as I said before, Jason Moss seemed to have almost forgotten at one point. I don't know if that was just a matter of trying to just further Cody's abilities as quarterback, or trying to make him be the superstar that he thinks he can be. It's really hard to say. I mean, things did not go very well for Saskatchewan last year, and the idea that those two key elements of the Rough Riders offense are now essentially the key elements now here in Montreal. And a lot of people are saying, well, can this work? Is this true? What I guess that'll be the big question is there nothing wrong with Jason Moss's coaching style and nothing wrong with Cody Fajardo's quarterbacking style? It was just a matter of not having a very good O-line, which now Cody Fajardo can say he's got himself a very, very capable offensive line here in Montreal. Is it a matter of that, or is it a matter of these two guys just aren't working together the way we think or hope they will? It's hard to say. I mean, it's a reset now for both of these guys. I mean, it's a reset for everybody in Montreal in a lot of ways when it comes to this season. But I think Jason Moss has a lot to prove. Cody Fajardo's got a lot to prove, and the Alouettes have a lot to prove, because people are back to sleeping on the Alouettes. Remember, they slept on the Alouettes last year, and look what happened. I mean, they started 2-6, ended up 9-9, and were basically a converted touchdown away from going to the Grey Cup. And that's with all the turmoil, all the extracurriculars that were going on before, during, and I guess into the off season. This off season has presented itself with all kinds of challenges, all kinds of head-scratching moments that you want to get excited about the football season, but at the same time, you've got this ownership kerfuffle that did end up turning out okay, as far as now that there's local ownership in place, things have to get better in that sense. Not having having a president, then not having a president, and now having a new president, which also, too, a very important element of a football organization. You're bringing in a head coach to replace the general manager who was the head coach, who still is the general manager. But, I mean, there's so many different and interesting idiosyncrasies with this team right now that, is it going to work? Is it not going to work? We don't know. That's the thing. And we can only speculate. And unfortunately, a lot of people have decided to speculate and say, oh, no, the Alouettes are back to being this disorganized, hot mess of a football team. Mm-hmm. I'm not ready to say that just yet. I mean, yeah, I could do without this constant change. It feels like every year there's some sort of change, and like significant change. And why? And the one thing that this team keeps talking about over and over again is wanting to have stability. Well, it's all well and good to want stability, but what are you doing to actually have the stability? Like, you're changing owners, you're changing general managers. Well, you're not changing general managers this time around, but you're changing head coaches, you're changing quarterbacks, you're changing players. I mean, there's so much change. It's hard to follow from one year to the next, and there's just such a lack of consistency. And it's understandable why fans are, I don't want to say disenfranchised necessarily, but it's hard to be completely optimistic about what's ahead. All we can say is, all right, here's the changes. This is who we have now. Let's just see what happens. And I think that's where a lot of Alouettes fans are right now, is just, okay, we know who we've got in our lineup. We know who the coach is. We know who the owner is. We know who, we know all these things now. Let's see if it's actually going to work. And you hope for the best. I think really that's what it is you hope for the best. And I know personally that's what I'm doing, is I'm hoping for the best. I want to see this team succeed, obviously. I want to see the players on this team reach those levels that they've been searching for so long. I want to see every element of this team as successful. And it's just a simple matter of, you know what you have to do. Now you just have to go out and do it. So come Sunday, I'm going into this with a clear head and just, I don't want to say hope. I never want to say hope, because hope can be a very bad thing. But at the same time, I'm willing to go in with an open mind and say, all right, maybe Cody Fajardo is the quarterback we've been waiting for all this time. Maybe we finally have that right mix. Maybe we finally have that quote-unquote winning formula we need to get back to the Grey Cup and actually win the Grey Cup. That's my hope, or if you want to call it that. That's what I'm going into on Sunday with, is that it starts on Sunday. It starts a new season, a new possibility, a new agenda, new everything. So whether we want it or not, it's here. And to me, I'm just going to try and enjoy the ride as best as I can.
Exactly. Hey, by the way, got to remind everybody too, Cliff, before we finish up the show, I don't know if anybody has been thinking about it. I know we have. For the 2023 season, SportBuff flight crew seats have returned.
Yes, they have. And we are definitely looking forward to giving away a pair of those. As we did last year, we had so much success with it. We got so many great entries. We got so many people excited about the possibility of watching an Alouettes game live at Percival Molson Stadium. And we are so thrilled and so thankful that SportBuff is willing to help us with this again. So, folks, make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. Make sure, whether it's through YouTube or any of the other podcast platforms, make sure you're tuning in. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you let everybody know to check out the Alouettes Flightdeck. And hey, when the time comes and we want those entries into the contest, you want to go see an Alouettes game on us, folks, we want to help you. We want to let you go and enjoy Alouettes football. But you got to help us out too. You got to get the word out for us. You got to let everybody know that, hey, yeah, this Alouettes Flightdeck, they're giving away seats to the next game. You got to check them out. So when the time comes, folks, when we're ready to give away those flight crew seats, please be ready, because we want to see a packed stadium. We want to see this team thrive. We want to see this team reach those new heights that we talked about earlier. And we want you, our great listeners, on board with that as well. So make sure when the time comes, you check out the flight crew seats, you check out the contest, make sure you tell everybody to enter. And we are so excited. We are so excited to see everybody back at Percival Molson Stadium this year.
That's right. Oh, and just to make it even more special, Cliff, stay tuned.
More special?
More special. Stay tuned, because as of our show on May 24th, that is when the contest will go live for the show. I think we'll do it then. Because I know we have another week, but because stay tuned for more information, obviously, because that's when we're going to start the process of giving away a pair of tickets to the Montreal Alouettes preseason game on Friday, June 2nd at 7:30 p.m. versus the Hamilton Tiger Cats. So get ready, watch all of our socials, and again, thanks to SportBuff for being such a great sponsor over these past 3 years.
Oh my, so exciting. I mean, as I said, folks, this offseason has been an interesting one for us. Like I said, there's been times where I just haven't been able to make heads or tails of it, but I'm telling you, Tim, as soon as we get there on Sunday and get to Trois-Rivières and get into the stands and seeing these guys in action, to know that football is truly back, my God, maybe that's what it's going to take. I think for me, that truly is what it's going to take for me to really truly be back in football mode. I always say that I'm never not in football mode, but like to really know that, okay, it's real now. Like it's tangible. You can taste it. You can feel it. You can hear it. To me, I think that's really what it's going to take, is just, let's see some damn action. Let's see some action no matter what. Like we got to see some Canadian football being played in some way, shape, or form. So this Sunday, folks, it's back.
Sunday. So we'll be back next week to talk about what we saw on the opening day of camp. And I'm sure there'll be a lot more to talk about here on the Alouettes Flight Deck. So Cliff, get ready. I'll be seeing you very shortly, buddy. And we're going to take in that action over in Trois-Rivières. And so for everybody here at the Alouettes Flight Deck, for Cliffy D, I'm Tim Capper. One final approach.